Political world was stunned yesterday afternoon when President Joe Biden dropped this statement on social media announcing that he was pulling out of the presidential campaign. In the particular letter, he talked about what they have accomplished over the last 4 years, but said he had made the decision to not seek the re-election. Now, that was in that particular letter. On social media, he posted a tweet saying that he was endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris to be his replacement as a Democratic nominee. That set off a whirlwind immediately when it took place. In the first couple of hours, some $30 million was raised via Act Blue by grassroots activists. 60% of the people that have given, now in excess of $100 million, 60% of those folks, first-time donors to political campaigns. It has completely changed the game today. Vice President Kamala Harris was in the Rose Garden on the White House lawn, South Lawn, welcoming NCAA champions. Because President Biden still has COVID, he was not there. This is what she had to say about President Joe Biden's legacy.
Joe Biden's legacy of accomplishment over the past 3 years is unmatched in modern history. In one term, he has already, yes, you may clap. In one term, he has already surpassed the legacy of most presidents who have served 2 terms in office. And I first came to know President Biden through his son, Beau. We worked together as attorneys general in our states, and back then, Beau would often tell me stories about his dad. He would talk about the kind of father and the kind of man that Joe Biden is. The qualities that Beau revered in his father are the same qualities that I have seen every day in our president. His honesty, his integrity, his commitment to his faith and his family, his big heart, and his love, deep love of our country. And I am firsthand witness that every day our President Joe Biden fights for the American people, and we are deeply, deeply grateful for his service to our nation.
Folks, one of the first endorsements of Vice President Kamala Harris after President Joe Biden's decision was from former President Bill Clinton, as well as former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Here we go to my iPad. President Biden has capped his extraordinary career of service with a presidency that has lifted America out of an unprecedented pandemic, created millions of new jobs, rebuilt a battered economy, strengthened our democracy, and restored our standing in the world. But then, of course, you hear what they said: we are honored to join the president in endorsing Vice President Harris, and we'll do whatever we can to support her. Now, after that took place, you just saw significant amounts of movement take place where members of Congress, on the House, on the Senate side, mayors, even delegations beginning to pledge their support to Vice President Kamala Harris. Now, what you've also seen is all of the folks who everyone was talking about as potential opponents of hers. Well, guess what happened? They begin to throw their support behind Vice President Kamala Harris. You could do the roll call of all the different people. Of course, you had Josh Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania; Gavin Newsom, governor of California; Gretchen Whitmer, governor of Michigan; Roy Cooper, governor of North Carolina; Andy Beshear, governor of Kentucky; J.B. Pritzker, governor of Illinois, and on and on and on. Now, initially, we talked about Nancy Pelosi and others. They were talking about this open convention concept. That's what they were hoping for. Well, guess what? That's been blown out of the water when you look at all the support that she is getting. Now, what's very interesting is that President Barack Obama, in his particular statement, he laid out all sorts of, platitudes with regards to President Joe Biden, talking about his career, what he meant. Of course, he served 8 years as Obama's vice president, and on and on and on. Now, what was interesting is, as all of these endorsements were coming through, all these endorsements began to come through, people were going, okay, what about President Obama? Well, in his particular statement, after all of the praise for President Joe Biden, he then all of a sudden said this: we'll be navigating uncharted waters in the days ahead, but I have extraordinary confidence that the leaders of our party will be able to create a process from which an outstanding nominee emerges. I believe that Joe Biden's vision of a generous, prosperous, and united America that provides opportunity for everyone will be on full display at the Democratic Convention in August, and I expect that every single one of us are prepared to carry that message of hope and progress forward into November and beyond. Well, guess what? He's looking like he's on the island because you've seen the endorsements being racked up. One of the folks who was talking about the need for an open convention was former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. Many folks, and we've talked about it on this show, talked about how she was not necessarily supportive of Vice President Kamala Harris. Well, guess what? Nancy Pelosi had to come out with her own endorsement of Vice President Kamala Harris today. So there's been significant movement and changes over the past 24 hours, and it will continue. We're waiting to see the first polling. Oh, by the way, Donald Trump, absolutely scared to death. Now he's trying to weasel out of a debate in September that was supposed to air on ABC. He's now calling for it to air on Fox. And so let's talk about it with our guests plus our panel as well. Welcome to the show. We have joining us right now, Dr. Amakongo Dabinga Sr., Professorial Lecturer, School of International Service, American University, Dr. Julian Malveaux, Economist, President Emeritus of Bennett College, also an author out of D.C., Derek Jackson, Georgia State Representative out of Atlanta. Derek, of course, that's our panel. Then, of course, we have joining us Illinois Congressman Jonathan Jackson, Tamia Booker, founder and managing director of T. Booker Strategies, also Markus Batchelor, national political director of People for the American Way. Joining me here in studio. Glad to have everyone here, all six of you here. Jonathan, I want to start with you. You were there with President Biden last week in Las Vegas, where he came down with COVID. There was lots of energy there at the NAACP, but clearly all of the intense pressure that was on him for 20 plus days after that June 27th debate forced him to have to make this decision. Yes, do you agree with that?
I can see that, but I think more importantly is that, I hope that he recovers from COVID. He's currently in isolation. We're gonna hear from him soon. I don't wanna put words in his mouth. There was an enormous amount of pressure. But the good thing is President Biden, to his credit, has always put the country first. He is led by character and by example. This process, I think people have blown it out of proportion. We've always had a backup plan. If the number one decides not to seek re-election, the number two steps up. There's an order to this here. There really was no other conversation, or should be no other conversation, about who would be the presumptive nominee. And the Democratic Victory Fund, that has Biden and Harris on it. Only two people can access that, the president and vice president. 14 million people have already cast their vote. So I think that we're respecting the process, and I want to congratulate Vice President Harris, Democratic presumptive nominee, President Harris. I want her to continue the momentum. There's something I would wish and implore her to do immediately: get her people in the campaign. This is her campaign now. It happened just that fast. President Biden has done a magnificent job. She needs to amplify, echo that, but she needs to get her voice and her people for her messaging, for her shot at the presidency right now.
Tamia, your assessment of what we have seen over the last 24 hours.
Well, we have seen a remarkable change in history where President Biden stepped down and also endorsed the first Black woman vice president to be president of the United States. And what's fascinating right now is just seeing the momentum that has taken place. She's raised over $80 million in 24 hours. That's more than Donald Trump raised in 1 month. As
access more than any candidate in history.
More than any candidate in history. And she's off to a great start because, as mentioned before, she already legally has the rights to use the money from the Biden-Harris campaign because she's still on the ticket. And so it's really exciting because there are a lot of doubts of people wondering, can we elect a Black woman? Can we elect a woman president? And we have to remember that Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. And so we have to come out with that same momentum this time. And clearly we are already there with a candidate who's raised more than history than any other candidate for president before. And she's already making those strides. So it's been really exciting. We had our Win with Black Women call last night. There were 40,000 Black women.
45,000.
Was it 45? I heard it was 40.
No, at around, I was on there as well, and around 12:30 a.m., they announced they had surpassed 45,000.
and raised over $1.5 million. And that was over the course of just a few hours. This is unheard of. I've worked on presidential campaigns in the past. And so what's exciting about this for me is that this is very similar to the momentum that I remember when I first started working on President Obama's campaign. So it's really great to see. And I think people are very excited, shocked by what has happened, right? This is something that we've just never seen before, but really ready to move forward and vote for President Kamala Harris, which I love being able to say.
Markus, when you look at, again, this landscape, everything that we knew before, all of the polling data, that's now out of the window. This is a total reset of this campaign.
No, absolutely. And I feel like most Democrats today that we are back in the hunt, that we have new energy behind our backs, and now's the opportunity to really seize it, to reframe the message, to talk about the clear contrast between the Democrats and the Republicans in this election, talk about the clear stakes when it comes to re-electing Donald Trump. And the good thing is we're going to have a tremendous candidate to do that, and a tremendous ticket to do that this November. So I feel energized, and I think a lot of Democrats around the country do too.
Jonathan, we talk about clearing the field. Again, there was all this talk about all these other different candidates. But guess what? One by one, they were dropping endorsements. And, you know, even Joe Manchin was trying to sit here and float his little name out there between one morning interview and the next. By the time he got to the second one, he was like, yeah, no, I ain't running. And then it was like, well, you know, I was hoping for open convention. You got Marianne Williamson out there. She know damn well she ain't getting no delegates. But the bottom line is, and now you're seeing these state delegations pledge all of their delegates to her. I mean, again, she's wrapping this thing up. And the reason I think that's important, Democrats could not afford a month of battling and fighting and saying, oh, we'll decide when we get to the convention. The runway is getting shorter. She sent a tweet out. She was going up to Wilmington, Delaware to say hello to the staff there. Bottom line is, every day between now and November 5th is critically important. And so Democrats would have been nuts to wait.
It's 105 days. We're roughly 3 weeks out from the Democratic convention. She has time enough now to focus on fundraising, focus on getting her people into the campaign, people that understand her, that want to get her unique message out. She doesn't have to follow Joe Biden's campaign script. She has to lever all of the accomplishments that they were able to get done together, which has been remarkable, that she was there every step of the way. People have to understand, as her role as the vice president is to break the Senate tie. That's one clear rule that the vice president has. She's done that over 31 times. We're going back into records not seen since the 1840s, 1850s. She has a marvelous story to tell. She has more legislative victories to put under her belt than J.D. Vance and Donald Trump combined. I think now we should also pivot to talk about who's the oldest person in the race. Do we still want somebody 77 years old to be in office by the time he's 80 with his cognitive decline? Do we want someone that's a criminal, that has felony records, to be in the race? Do we want J.D. Vance, who says if a child has been a victim of incest, that they should still not be able to make lifelong decisions about the anatomy of their body? They're an extremist group that's on the other side. So I believe in Vice President Harris, and I couldn't be happier at this moment to give my full support to do all that I can to get out on the field. I would tell you this, Roland, life is miraculous. My heart was heavy one day with the passing of the Honorable Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, and the good Lord can give you levity and give you a new ray of hope, new energy. And I just wish so bad that Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee could have held on just a few more hours to have seen this, a woman that has been instrumental in all of these young persons' success. God bless her soul, and continued success to the Honorable and the great Vice President, soon to be President Harris.
Well, I've actually known Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee longer than any member of Congress. We were prepared to actually have a 1-hour tribute in the second hour of the show today, but because of yesterday's development, we pushed that tribute for the Congresswoman to Wednesday. So, folks, that will take place on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Please have me back. Please have me back. I would love to be a part. I campaigned with her in her last campaign, run for Congress, and a thrill of a lifetime, looking at her from afar and then be able to join her up close and support and run with her.
All right, we'll certainly let you know. Tamia, when we start looking at how the race is changing, this here was something that was posted by the folks at Civics earlier today. They said when they started tracking Trump versus Harris 2 weeks ago, they said through July 21st, Biden trailed Trump 46-44 nationally. Harris was ahead 48-46. Trump is stuck at the ceiling of 46. Harris gains from third party and undecided voters. Also, it says, dig into the crosstabs. Young voters, 18-34, went from 44-36 for Biden to 57-37 for Harris. Independents went from 48-32 for Trump, plus 16, to 49-41, which is plus 8. She cuts that in half. Harris picks up 7 points among black voters, 8 points among Hispanic voters, almost all from third party undecided. Your thoughts?
It's remarkable, once again, just to see this shift and really see what people were looking for. I have some young folks that work at my business, and they were telling me today how they are building these Instagram groups, and they went from 100 people to 18,000 overnight of students who are willing to organize and be excited for this candidate. It really is a remarkable change to see that people were really looking for something different. And I think that history, it's attractive to people, and being able to have the opportunity to really solidify our vote for the first woman president, first black woman president, and for someone who's going to continue the many policies that President Biden has instituted while he's been president. And so just seeing the changing in the polls, it allows for us to be extremely optimistic moving forward and really bring and unite the party going into Chicago next month. So it's just exciting to see, and I really hope that the momentum continues, and it really can only go up from here, because you really use the convention as a springboard to really launch your general election. And that's what she will be doing. And all these people who want to organize and help out, we're going to really see those who are asking I get asked every hour, what should I do? I think it'll be very clear, and we'll be excited to see the momentum carry throughout November.
Markus, one of the things that I'm looking at is, depending upon who she picks for a VP nominee, will she be able to hold those white numbers of Biden, his white coalition? Hillary Clinton only got 38% of the white vote. Biden got about 41%, higher than Obama as well as Hillary Clinton. That's going to be critical because white votes make up 70% of the entire electorate. So over the next couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, especially when she picks a VP nominee, that is going to be a critical number to look at, will determine how successful they can possibly be in November.
Sure. Yeah, I think who she picks as VP is going to be very important. I think when you're looking at governors or elected officials, senators from swing states, those are going to be important when you think about the electoral math. I think she's got a lot of great choices in front of her. I think when you think of Governor Andy Beshear from Kentucky, when you think about folks like Roy Cooper from North Carolina, when you think about folks like Mark Kelly from Arizona, I think she has a tremendous list of people she could choose from. But in terms of those groups, Kamala Harris is also going to be a tremendous messenger on her own. When you talk about the contrast between her and Donald Trump on key issues like reproductive rights, on key issues like law and order, he's not going to be able to hold a candle to her. So I think with her being the nominee, I think we'll see a tremendous shift in those demographics, including young voters, including black voters that'll be more energized. But yeah, for sure, the VP pick is going to be important too.
All right, Markus, Tamia, Congressman Jackson, really appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?